Some books arrive in your hands not as declarations but as provocations. The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga feels exactly like that. Not a manual to be absorbed passively, but a dialogue meant to unsettle, question, and quietly, stubbornly challenge the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what happiness means. Reading it feels less like flipping through chapters and more like sitting across from two thoughtful, persistent voices. A skeptical young man and a calm philosopher, debating the core ideas of Alfred Adler's psychology in a way that's both oddly theatrical and deeply human. At first glance, the book's title itself seems almost confrontational. The Courage to be Disliked. What a strange ambition when so much of what we do each day, consciously or not, is aimed at being liked, accepted, or at least understood. And yet, as the conversation unfolds, it becomes clear this isn't about becoming antisocial or stubborn for its own sake. Instead, it's about freeing ourselves from the invisible prison of living to meet other people's expectations, and discovering what it means to live from a place of genuine choice and responsibility. What makes the book quietly powerful is its form. A Socratic dialogue modeled on conversations between teacher and student. The young man voices all our familiar doubts, frustrations, and modern anxieties. But isn't this naive? How can we live without caring what others think? Don't we need recognition to feel worthwhile? And through calm, sometimes almost annoyingly patient answers, the philosopher unpacks Adler's ideas. Ideas that at times feel radical in their simplicity. At the heart of the book lies one idea that can feel both liberating and unsettling. That much of our unhappiness comes not from our circumstances, but from the meanings and purposes we assign to them. It isn't the past itself that binds us, the philosopher argues, but the story we choose to tell about it today. This is Adler's concept of teleology. That our behavior is driven not so much by causes from the past as by the goals we're pursuing in the present, often unconsciously. It's a challenging notion, especially if you've come to see your struggles as the inevitable outcome of childhood wounds or external injustice. The philosopher doesn't deny that pain happens, but he insists that clinging to a narrative of victimhood can become its own comfort, a way to avoid the responsibility of change. True freedom in this view comes from acknowledging, I am living this way because at some level I have chosen to. That insight can sting, but it can also open the door to real agency. Another striking idea is the difference between tasks of life and the tendency to overstep into others' tasks. Much of our anxiety, the philosopher argues, comes from trying to control what fundamentally belongs to someone else, like seeking to be liked by everyone or worrying about judgments we can't influence. The courage to be disliked, then, is really the courage to draw these boundaries, to act in accordance with our values and accept that others' reactions belong to them, not to us. Reading this, it's hard not to see echoes in everyday moments. Biting your tongue instead of speaking honestly, fearing rejection before you've even tried, carrying guilt for choices that upset someone else. The philosopher's gentle insistence is that we can't control another's feelings, only our own intentions. And the paradox, he suggests, is that by giving up the attempt to be universally liked, we often become more authentic and more deeply, genuinely connected. The book also reframes happiness itself in surprisingly humble terms, not as the achievement of status, recognition, or perfection, but as living in harmony with the community around us. This is contribution in Adler's sense, feeling that our presence benefits others, even in small, everyday ways. It's a shift from asking, "What do I get?" to asking, "What can I give?" A move from self-centeredness to social interest, which paradoxically brings a deeper sense of fulfillment. What I found quietly moving is that the philosopher never denies the pain of being disliked or misunderstood. Instead, he suggests that pain is often the price of living authentically, and that avoiding it completely means avoiding life itself. The courage to be disliked, then, is ultimately the courage to be fully alive, to speak, act, and choose in alignment with who we truly are rather than who we think we ought to be. By the end of the book, it becomes clear this isn't a philosophy of cold detachment or isolation. It's an invitation to participate more deeply in life, not by bending to every expectation, but by standing calmly in our own values, and in doing so discovering a freer, more compassionate self. Closing the book, you may not feel you have arrived at some final truth, and perhaps that's the point. Instead, what lingers is a kind of quiet resolve, the sense that, messy and human as it is, the path to happiness isn't about controlling how others see us, but about choosing day by day how we see and live ourselves. And perhaps in that choice we discover the real courage. Not just to be disliked but to be deeply, imperfectly and unapologetically human.